everybody, welcome. I'm Karla Jerome with Grace Education. I'm really excited today to talk about attaching your fabric to a hoop frame. We're going to be using this hoop frame a little later on, but first of all, we're going to set up our quilt and take it to the frame, and that's what I'm going to show you right now. Let's talk about the leaders. These are an accessory that you can purchase, and the reason the leaders are an accessory is because you can use the backing as your leader on a hoop frame, and you can use them over and over and over again. Now, with the hoop frame leaders, they're a little different than the regular rolling frame leaders. You get two sections. Your top, which has a piece of cording wrapped through it, okay, and it's the leader that we're going to pin our top layers to. Now this one here is a little wider, and it's the bottom leader. So you're going to find the center of all these leaders and you're going to mark. So when you open it up, just fold it in half and find your centers. And I like to find the center and mark on the front and the back side. Because notice how this one's rolling. I may put it on like this and have it roll nice and even. So just decide how it's rolling smoothly and then make your marks. So I'll mark the front side and the back side. And what's nice about the hoop leaders is it gives you these two little side leaders, and I'm going to show you later on how to use these. They are very handy and very useful when using them with your bungee clamps. So I'm going to set these off to the sides, and we're going to jump in and talk about setting up our quilt and our top and our batting and getting them ready to attach to the leaders. First things first, you've pieced your beautiful top, and what you want to do is lay it out and measure it. Now, I've measured my top, and on this top here, I'm going to be using it in several segments. I have marked my top and my bottom, and I used different color stickers on it, but I folded it and I found my center. Now, really important for you to measure the top, and then the middle, and then the bottom. Quilts have a little inaccuracies, and it's really nice to know how it's going to roll. So if your top section is a little bit wider than your bottom, you at least have those measurements, and you can make some adjustments as you're moving down your quilt and shifting it across. So notice I've pinned my top and my bottom. Notice how I have my fabric nice and folded. I measured and then I folded it all up so that I could lay it on my backing and my top. So there's my top, and I have all my measurements and I have them written down. Now, always make your backing and your batting wider and longer than your top. Really important that you understand that the backing and the batting are what absorb all those little quilting stitches. So they shrink as you're quilting. If you have them so close to the same size, you're going to, by the end of your quilt, run out of one or the other. I've made my backing, and this is my backing here, and it's just one solid piece, wider and longer, and I also have marked my top. This is my top pin, and this one back here is my bottom. And then I did the same thing with my batting. Now, I made my batting the same size as my backing. It was just easy to lay it on top and cut the same size. You don't have to, but your backing needs to be at least 4 to 6 inches wider on the hoop frame. And if you're using it as a leader and replacing the leaders, it should be at least 6 inches wider and at least 10 inches longer, okay? And then for my batting, I have my top and my bottom. Now, I'm using a double layer of batting. That's because I like to use a double layer of batting. So make sure that you're laying your batting so that the scrim side is facing down. If you don't know what the scrim is, it's the smooth side of the batting, and the non-scrim side faces up. So the scrim side is kind of that layer that as the needle punctures it, it doesn't pull the batting through. So make sure that you have it facing the right direction. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to lay my top and my batting off to the side here because I'm going to be working with my backing first. Okay, so we're going to be using this top leader as my top. And like I said, I'm watching to see how it rolls. And I've got my center right here. So I'm just going to lay it right in the center here. And now I can just undo my backing. And this is my top. And because it's a solid piece, it doesn't matter so much what direction I have it. So it's really easy. If you have your pin marked, then you can just take this pin, line it up. Notice how I've just lined it up, and I'm going to just put these together so that it's nice and straight. And I'm going to take the pin that's marked the top. I'm just going to make sure that I've lined it, and I'm just going to start pinning straight across. Now I have my package of pins here, and it's really important that you pin close together. If you have a gap, and I'm just going to show you what happens by having too large of a gap, and I know we don't like to pin, but notice how if you're pulling it, you're going to have it uneven as you're rolling it. So it's really important to add an extra pin. Now, they don't have to butt up right next to each other, but you don't want too big of a gap. So I'm just going to pin. Notice I'm pinning one direction first, and then I'm going to go and pin the other direction. But how easy it is when you have this nice flat surface, and you can just pin straight across. Now, I was going to show you on the frame how to do it, but I thought, no, I'm going to show you the easiest way, and then we can carry it to the frame. But once you understand the process, and you have it down, and you want to try something different, please do. You don't always have to do it my way. If you find a way that works easier for you, and you can eliminate a step, I am all for it. I just want your quilting to be fun and accurate, and I know that this process here, pinning the quilt, is not necessarily the funnest thing to do, but it's very important for us to pin it nice and straight. So notice now, I am coming and I'm just off to the side. And the reason I hold it up and pin, it's just easier for me. And I'm not even pinning it to the pinning line down here. I'm just pinning it to the edge. The edge is nice and solid and straight. So it's really going to make a huge difference on my quilt. And you know, this process, you'll get faster and faster. If you want to use the red snappers, be my guest. If you want to use magnets, be my guest. And then we're going to go and do the bottom. Now this is the one that you're going to be laying out and pinning both the top and bottom to. And then I'm going to hurry and do the bottom. I'm going to show you how to get it started. So I have my top all pinned. And see how nice and straight it is? It's going to pull and roll nice and straight. Now I'm going to pull my bottom out. Now this is a lot longer than my quilt top is, but that's okay. So I'm going to just lay my top leader just up here because it's going to be a little easier for you to see. All right, I could push it off to the side, but I'm not going to. So we're going to use our bottom leader, and notice that it's wider, and the reason it's wider is because you may have a large gap in between your bottom section of your quilt and needing to quilt all the way to the edge, so it is going to be wider. So I've just marked my center line on this, and I am just going to do the same thing. I'm going to use my pin. So now I'm just going to line them up just like I did on the top. I'm not even going to worry about that I'm going to have a little bit turned over. It's not going to be that big of a deal, and I'm just going to start pinning. Do the same way that I did before, just knowing that the further apart, and I'm just going to finish pinning this, and then I'm going to show you how to do the rest. It doesn't take that long. It shouldn't take you hours and hours to get your quilt ready to go. So I pin my bottom leader on, and now I'm just going to lay it out so it's nice and smooth. I want it out so I don't have any wrinkles. I didn't iron this, so just know that I expect you to iron yours all nice and smooth, okay? But now I'm going to pull it forward because I want my top to be right here so that I can put my batting on and lay it across, okay? So I'm going to line up my batting, my top pin with my bottom pin as close as possible. Now, I do have extra batting, so if I don't get it exactly straight, that's okay. We just want it as straight as possible. So now I'm gonna grab my batting. And remember, I'm quilting with a double layer, but that's because I like a double layer. Now with this, I'm going to lay my batting across because the batting is really sticky, and that's why I folded it. And if you'll fold it or roll it, then you can unfold it on top of your backing and you won't have as many wrinkles. This is a really important step. If you try to lay out your batting and have it all one piece, trying to lay it on top of the backing, you're gonna have lots of wrinkles and lots of problems. So this way will eliminate that. I'm just going to line it up, get my center pin with my center pin right there. I'm lining up my stickers just so that you can see pretty dang close. And then I'm just going to start undoing it in layers, and I'm just unfolding it. Let's see how sticky it is. And this just really helps eliminate that. So now I'm just going to do this section right here. Okay, I'm going to come out from underneath. And now that I have them lined up, I just know that I can come down and unroll. And see, I can tell I have a little wrinkle right here. So I'm just going to pull it out, but it makes it so much easier for you to unroll. So now, okay, all right. Just want to smooth it out. You don't want any wrinkles. Okay. Just makes it a little easier for you, and see how it's lined up. Now we're just going to take my top, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to line it up, top to top, bottom with bottom. Now my top is not nearly as big as my batting or my backing. I just exaggerated it because I wanted you to understand how important it is to make it wider and longer, okay? So I'm just going to come up here and notice that I have my top here. I'm going to unfold it and align my top with the top. Now, notice how I'm putting it down just a little bit. I have enough room that I could really start quilting and start rolling this section up. Let's unroll it, just unfold it, and align it really nice. There we go. And notice that it is not nearly as wide and not nearly as long. And then I'm just going to unroll it and come down here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is start rolling it up into one big roll, or folding it, okay? And we're going to take it to the frame, and that's where I'm going to show you how to put it on. Now we've done the leaders, the rest is just a piece of cake. We're back at the frame now, and let's talk about the frame setup to prepare to put our quilt on. Number one, we've just finished a beautiful quilt, and notice that my take-up rail is higher than it should be for this frame. Now, usually on the hoop frames, it's a little different on a rolling frame. Once you set these heights for the poles, you don't have to reset them over and over and over again as you're shifting and moving your fabric from one section to the other. So let's get it set up correctly. But because we use these frames for multiple machines, we are changing the height. I just want to talk to you about this. So on the hoop frames, let's figure out the height of this take-up pole. This is the pole that goes through the arm of the machine and takes up all the layers of your fabric as you're rolling your quilt. It's also the one that you're using your clamps on. So let's adjust the height. If we want it to be straight across, notice that in comparison, as you're looking at this, that this is up just a little higher than this one, than this front pole here. So if you take your hand and go straight across, just kind of bend it right here, that's where you want it. So let's just take a minute and adjust the pole. and adjust it down. And we probably will want to go as far as we can to start with, okay? Then if we have to make some adjustments or raise it, we can. Now you have some little set screws on the hoop frames here to set the place, to set it in place correctly. But notice now that I've adjusted my take-up pole and I've moved all the way down, I have just enough area that it's going to freely move. We don't want it rubbing against it at all, and I can't go down any further. So let me just adjust this one as well, and now I have to use my screwdriver because these are actually, these little set screws are set in place. So there we go. And if I set it down all the way, now if you're moving your frame all around and you don't have these set screws in place, you will see the poles come up, and you don't want that. So there we go. So on the hoop frame, I just finished tightening them up, and it's kind of nice to have your Allen wrenches handy and to make sure that you set these screws back into place. Now on the cutie frame, you don't use these set screws, but you will want to clamp it down so that it's not going to move on you. Now if you're using a domestic machine, that's probably why it was up a little higher, because we have a top plate with the machine, and you have to adjust the difference between them. So you'll set it for your machine. So the first thing you're going to do is get your machine on the frame and then adjust the settings of the take-up pole on the front rail. I just want to make sure that I can move it front to back, that there's nothing hitting. Now with these little clamps, yes, they'll hit it. So we want to make sure that as we're putting our fabric on, we put all our clamps on the frame. So let's put our quilt on. Now we want to start from the left and move to the right. And it's a little bulky to begin with, okay? It's just the nature of a quilt, and especially if you're using all 3 layers. So what I will do is I'm going to pull it kind of off to the side here, okay? So that I can make my adjustments. All right, so I have my 2 tails right here. And we want to make sure that when we clamp it on, we're putting it underneath the foot and over the pole. So I'm going to take this end here and put it back behind my foot, okay? So that now I'm not going to be able to get this piece of cording underneath my foot. That's why I'm taking it back behind, because I have that little extra, and that's what I wanted to show you, okay? So now I'm just going to kind of pull it down this direction. So this is as far as my carriage will move. And I don't want to set my quilt up where I'm going to hit the sides. So I'm just going to pull it right here and align it, because I want to maximize my quilting area as much as I can. And notice I'm going to put it under the foot now. I'm going to put it under the foot, and I'm just going to kind of pull it. All right, it's about right there, because I don't want to hit the sides, and I want to start about right here. And so I'm just going to pull it forward, and I'm just going to kind of lay it down, and then I'll bring it back up, and I'll show you how to clamp it and keep it off the floor. Very nice, very easy to do, and you're going to have to make a little purchase, but it's going to be okay because it's not going to break the bank. And that's the quilt clips. So I'm going to show you how nice they work for the hoop frames to help keep your fabric up off the floor. And I would buy, depending on how big the quilts are, both sizes so that you have both sizes to adjust, okay? So notice I'm just going to kind of align it. When you put your clamps on, it will take up some of this excess. So let's put our clamp on and try not to step on your pretty quilt. And you have 3 clamps on top, okay? So I'm just going to pull it forward. There we go. And I'm not going to hit the top of it. So this is good. And now I just kind of eyeball it going across. It's really not hard, but it is a little more time consuming than, say, maybe the rolling frame. And you're trying to put it on as straight as possible. And with the batting and everything, you can make some adjustments. So now I'm going to put on my front. Now that I have my back, and I just want to make sure that I've got them on the right way. And notice it's a little loose. So I'm just going to kind of pull it, and then I'll adjust it to get, but see how nice and smooth it is? And I'm just going to pull it just a tad. Okay. Now, with the hoop frames, these are what we call our ratchets. So we'll just turn them and get a little more tension on it. Now we just need our side tension, and I'll show you how to do that. Because I have a wide enough backing, I'll just put my clamp on and pin my bungee to it. Now, if I didn't have enough room and I was all the way to really right here on the edge of my quilt, this is where I'll use this little leader side bungee. So you'll clamp it to your bungee clamp, and then you'll just pin. And see the great tension you get by using that? I tell you, these little side tension pieces are really important. You don't necessarily have to have the hoop frames to use them. You can make your own. But however, it is a little heavier, more durable fabric that does not stretch. So you don't want a stretchy fabric. That's why these are really important. So you'll just see that now the bungees, you'll pin it to the edges, and the bungees aren't going to be in your way as you're quilting across and throw off your stitching. Make sure that you're using them, and they will make your sides nice and straight, nice and even. So now we're ready to clip on our side clips and attach our little bungees here onto our cording on our leader cloth. But I want to show you the two different ways for your side bungees. Now, when you're using and you're at the side and you're needing the bungee clamps, you will turn it so it's faced up. When you're using it and you're here at the side and you don't have enough fabric to come and attach it down onto the fabric, okay, you'll use this clamp facing up. And the reason is that this little thing, this little item here is the bungee clamp holder. And it just clips on just like this. And you'll just want to slide it down, and then you'll attach your bungee to it. Tie your little knot, and then with the bungees, they have a little bungee stop that you can adjust. Really nice. So I'll just put it on, you just squeeze down, and you're just going to pull it as far as you need to, and roll them up, and just kind of do a little knot around them, just like this, and then you won't be stepping on them, but it'll make a huge difference. Now, we don't want to step on our fabric either. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and then we'll jump over to the other side. So see how nice that is, and you can make all the adjustments you need. If you're not using the bungees, you just let it lay over the side here, and then you can just swap the clamp up. Okay, so let's pick up this fabric off of the floor. Now on the Cutie tabletop fabric frame, you have the little bungee clamps that come up from the front here, and you can roll your fabric and just roll it this direction. However, on the hoop frames, you don't. So I like to use my 2-inch quilt clips. And what you'll do is you'll just bring it up, and you can do it in a couple of layers, but you don't want to make it too close. And you're just going to lay it right here, because you're not going to quilt all the way to the edge. But see how nice that is? And it just keeps it up off of the floor. All right, and then you can just clamp these down. There we go. And that's why you want the 2-inch quilt clips, because if you like it big and soft, you're going to need the 2-inchers. And then we can just tuck this down underneath, out of the way. But see how it keeps it up off the floor? Now, if you weren't using a double layer of batting, you could maybe get away with 1.5-inch, not sure. And so just make sure you're clamping it up out of the way and getting it up off the floor. It'll just make it that much nicer for you to quilt. All right, let's talk about the side clamp. And then we'll talk about marking our area for quilting, and I'll let you go and you can go and quilt. So this one is facing down, and notice that I'm just going to push it on just like this. So that one's facing up because it's the edge, this one's facing down, and I'm just going to ratchet it. So now I have nice even tension, and look, it's on pretty dang straight, and I didn't do any basting. Now, if you don't feel confident, you can just pin it, and then we're going to start tacking down our edges as we're quilting. Let's talk about marking our quilt area to begin quilting. Really important if you don't have a machine that has the edge warning, and also if you don't have the Sure Stitch Elite. The Sure Stitch Elite has what we call an edge warning feature on it that will beep at you when you get close to the edge so you don't mess up your quilt design. So if you don't have those nifty features, we're just going to do it manually. And I have my painter's tape here, and I'm just going to hurry and show you how to mark. So what you want to do is, we can see this area up here, and we know if we're going to hit the back. Down underneath, we don't know how close we're getting to the side or how close this front part is, so we're going to hit, and we don't want to throw off our stitches, and we want to be able to quilt as much as we can. So what I do is I will take painter's tape, and this will really save you a lot of unpicking, and it will really save you from messing up your quilt design. So I pulled it forward, so I want to place my painter's tape just right here. So I could really use this, but I may not have it on exactly straight. So as I'm quilting across, if this side is down just a slight little bit, it's going to make a huge difference. So don't trust the visual blocks on your quilt to be, especially on the hoop frames, nice and straight. Even on the rolling frames, it's not going to be quite as accurate. So we're just going to make sure that we're placing our tape, even though we could probably still quilt a little bit more, behind our foot, because we don't want to hit the front. Let me clamp up the backs first, because then my straps will be in place. And I'm just going to use my cording and just start rolling. Okay, so I don't pin the pins to it, and I'm just going to clamp it to the front. But see how nice this makes it? The cording just really does help keep it nice and straight as you're rolling. And I'm just going to come back behind my machine and continue rolling it up. Now, I may want to take that pin out because I don't want to stick myself. But I have all my little clamps, and they'll get caught up underneath if you don't clamp them. So you want to make sure that you have all 6 of them clamped into place. So remember, that's the magic number on the hoop frames, 6. It's 4 on the QD tabletop fabric frame. So make sure you're counting so you have all of them. Now, notice now I can go across and make sure, see, this one is not on straight because I can quilt just a little bit more, but that's okay. We're just going to mark. And this is going to give me a reference point that I know that I can't quilt past. All right, now let's do our side. So I don't want to hit my sides, so I'm going to make sure that I come right here and pin up or tape up, okay? Now, if I happen to sew on this tape, it's going to come undone, come off of the quilt without pulling out your stitches. That's why I like the painter's tape. So if you're using the automation, that's another great way. So there we go. I've marked my quilt. I'll put another little piece right here, but you can easily remove it as you're quilting, okay? So notice that this is my guide, and it's a really good reference guide because I don't want to quilt it all the way up. I'll take my pins out so I don't roll up over them. So I'll use this as my reference, and then I'll shift it to the side, keep going, and then I'll start quilting down my quilt. Not too hard, doesn't take as long, and it'll make it that much straighter, that much more even, and your quilting's going to be awesome. So if you don't want to use all the steps, you find what works for you. I'm Karla Jerome. Have a great time quilting on your hoop frame.
Hi guys, I hope you loved that video like I did. My name's Madison and I work in the education department here at Grace Company. And you get me because Karla is actually in a show in Australia. So she'll be there for the next 2 weeks. So you get me a little bit. Hope you're not too disappointed. For information, we are taking a summer hiatus from June to August. We're just gonna be showing reruns. We're gonna get rescheduled and have some great videos for you coming after that. And please join us for our special event next Wednesday from 11 to 1. We are gonna have a new show. It's called the Grace Co Shopping Show. And come watch Nathan as he shows some amazing deals and gives you just a fun time. Thank you so much. Have a good day.